Gautama Buddha said, mind is everything. What we think, we become. Since mind is what brain does, brain is the measure of everything. Welcome to Brain and Beliefs, where we have conversations about mysticism, religiosity, spirituality, and brain science.
My name is Vivek Palawale. It is hard to imagine how the experience would be to enter the doorstep of death and come back to life. That's not an experience I would like to have, but millions around the globe have had or will have such near death experiences during their lifetime. Some find such experience emotionally very disturbing, but others claim entering supernatural realms and seeing divine entities. Patricia is one of those who had such an incredible near death experience.
My name is Patricia Robertson.
Patricia's encounter with death occurred on the way back home from a very enjoyable vacation in Florida. She believes she had glimpses of life after death and much more.
My husband and I had gone to Florida in an old motor home, and on the way down, the exhaust system blew out, and he didn't fix it. We enjoyed our vacation because we were both working pretty hard. And
I'm sorry, how old were you when you had that experience?
How old?
Yeah.
In our 50s. And on the way back, the starter broke in Tennessee, and he had turned it off to make a stop, and he couldn't get it back on. He had to work hours, and it was very cold. So we decided not to turn it off again and just to dive for Traverse City. So that we did, and we got to Kalamazoo, and my daughter was in medical school there, and we wanted to see her. So we stopped to rest, but we did not turn the motorhome off.
That happened to be a dangerous decision.
And we both went to sleep, and we didn't realize there was carbon monoxide poisoning. And I was told in the spirit not to go to sleep, but I didn't listen. I more or less fainted.
We hear stories all the time of exposure to carbon monoxide being deadly. Fortunately, Patricia's exposure didn't result in death, but pushed her close to death. Instead of encountering end of life, what she experienced was divine, something she never even imagined could happen even in her dreams.
And the next thing I knew, Jesus was standing right in front of me. And he said it wasn't his will that I go yet. But I left anyway. I left the motorhome. I went outside the motorhome with him. And I could see through the window my husband was in there, and a fire had started from the exhaust system right by him. And I asked Jesus to get him out of there. And Jesus put the fire out. And he asked me to go back in and get him out. It wasn't his will for me to die just yet.
This is something commonly reported by people who come back from near death situations, that they were told that it was not time for them to leave this earthly life.
When I saw the moving picture, Heaven is for Real, the picture that the girl drew of Jesus is exactly how he looks. And I have those pictures to remind me that's exactly how he looks.
So you said you fainted, and then you said you left the motorhome and walked out.
I walked out.
So you think it was your soul that walked out?
Yes, because I tried to touch Jesus and I didn't have a hand. I did not have a body. And we were not standing on the ground. We were standing about 4 feet from the ground. So I could look in the window. Otherwise, you can't look in the window in the motorhome unless you're up. And I could look in the window and I could see my husband laying there.
So during that experience, you fainted. You were taken to the hospital later?
Yes, I was taken to the ER, and I was told that I may have heart damage or brain damage, and my vitals were very low. Um, and they kept me there for quite a while on oxygen and gave me a lot of tests, EKG and things like that.
So that experience you had where you were walking out with Jesus and you asked him to put out the fire,
Mm-hmm.
all that time you were fainted. Your body was still in the motor.
Yes, my body was still in the motorhome because I asked him if my husband was going to burn up, and he said yes, and so are you. And the motorhome was burned. We had to get rid of it. It was burned.
And then what happened to your husband?
I got him out, and um, he was all right for a few years, but he had a stroke.
When they took you to the hospital, was your husband okay?
He wouldn't go. He went into a very deep depression because he did not fix the motorhome, and he was the problem because all he had to do was take out the exhaust system and replace it, and it would have been okay. And he wouldn't. He was very hard to get along with at that time, so he wouldn't get checked out.
Was he unconscious when you were unconscious?
Yes,
So who got your bodies out?
Jesus did.
But so I mean, were there people around?
No. We were at a rest area and people were walking by, but no one knew what was going on until we stumbled out and fell in the snow. And then somebody called an ambulance.
I had to ask her a couple of times how she and her husband were able to get out of the burning motorhome.
So I'm sorry. Both of you walked out and stumbled and fell on the snow,
Yeah.
or was that your husband?
Well, I was the one that fell.
I see. So when you had this out of body experience and you went back into your body, you were able to get up physically, come out of the
Get him out, yes.
And you helped to get your.
Yeah, we helped each other.
I see.
But he was stumbling and falling, but I was the one that was worse.
I see. And then when you fell on the ice, then somebody called the ambulance.
Yes. He was bigger than me. At that time, I only weighed about 110, and the carbon monoxide poisoning affected me worse than him.
Patricia got really sick from the carbon monoxide poisoning, but fortunately completely recovered from it.
During the carbon monoxide experience, when I came back, I was terribly sick, throwing up, and didn't know what was going on.
But as sick as she was and not knowing what was happening around her, the vision of Jesus Christ made her be sure of one thing.
At the time, seeing him, all I wanted was to go with him. But he told me that I was being selfish, that I was leaving my husband to burn in the motorhome, and that my daughter was in medical school and he wanted her to go through. And at the time, I was a good pianist. I was making really good money, and I was putting her through school. And he wanted her to get through school, and my mother was still alive, and he wanted me to be there for her. And so he asked me to go back. And so when I came back, I felt myself come back into my body because my body was sick.
I was very curious to hear her explanation for what happened after she fainted.
So, what's your explanation for that whole experience? Again, do you feel like you had a soul that left the body, had this interaction with Jesus Christ, and then went back into your body, and then you woke up and came out?
Yes.
Again, this raises the question of the existence of soul, Jesus Christ, and much more.
So you believe in the existence of heaven
Oh, yes.
and Jesus Christ,
Yes.
and you believe that once our life ends on this earth, you would be in heaven.
Yes.
This is not at all uncommon for many who had such near-death experiences to feel like they had glimpses of life after death and heaven. But some of the family members and friends find it very hard to believe.
So do you have any discussions with your family about these?
I do somewhat. It's hard to explain. My family are good Christians also, the same as me. But I'm older and I have been through more experiences than this even, and I have seen miracles. And I was crippled in my 30s, bedridden with my back, and I was healed of that. And I've been through miracles where I have seen visions, and they think I'm a little overboard. So I don't ask anything of them, and they don't ask me too many questions.
I am curious to explore what makes some people believe in miracles and supernatural entities, but not others in the same family with similar upbringing and environment. Are their brains different? 21st century neuroscience seems to be exploring that question. But for now, I was amazed to hear how this near death experience has made Patricia fearless of death anymore.
Now, do you ever think about death or scared of it, or you're not scared of it now because of the experience you had and you were sure you're going to go to heaven? What's your feeling about it? Have you ever thought about death?
I think about death constantly, especially at night, because sometimes I feel lightheaded or funny in the head, and I feel that maybe now that maybe the Lord is coming to get me. My desire is to go now.
Patricia's near death experience was not traumatic. Instead, it not only made her fearless of death, but also changed her profoundly spiritually. Many who had near death experience also claim profound spiritual personal transformation.
If He came to get me right this minute, I'd be gone.
I was amazed by how eager Patricia was to leave this earthly life and go to the realm of what she believes is afterlife. I am curious to hear her vision of afterlife.
I've had glimpses of it. I know it's there.
Please tune in next time to hear about what Patricia believes were glimpses of afterlife.